Yeah, I could fit like 3 to 4 IKEA meatballs. What?
You're still talking about this.
Yeah.
Alright, I do not know how to start this video properly because this is, in all honesty, one of the hardest videos I'm probably going to have to record for a bit, but today we'll be talking about the double-edged sword of the furry fandom. The one thing that I've mentioned time and time again in previous videos, I'm finally explaining it, what it means, and how it applies to the furry community. What is a double-edged sword in the first place? Well, to put it simply, it's a metaphor for something that has good and bad aspects to it. In an example of like eating ice cream when you're lactose intolerant, ice cream's delicious. That's pretty good. What's the bad? You just shit yourself. Good for you. Pretty simple and straightforward, but it's usually the subject of one thing. Now, what is that one thing that I reference as the double-edged sword of being a furry? Well, it's that the furry community is an open and welcoming community. It is both good in the manner that it does and bad in the manner that it does. Now, I do want to say that this video is a follow-up to one of my previous videos where I talked about the clique problem within the furry community, which at the end of the day, furry does not have a clique problem. It's just cliques are friend groups, and friend groups are going to naturally exclude people they don't know, not in a malicious manner, but just because they want to, you know, make friends with who they might get along with. It's not malicious, it's not bad, and it clearly isn't a problem. But more of what I want you to take away from that and apply to this video is that whenever you hear, oh, furry has this problem, and insert whatever here, usually that problem is not exclusive to furry, and it's also a people problem. So furry problems are people problems, at least in the context of this video and discussion. So the double-edged sword of being a furry is how open and welcoming the community is. Not that it's like open arms, like, oh, welcome in, you're a furry now. It's more just like anyone can say that they are a furry or join the community with zero qualifications, zero basis. You don't have to go to a furry convention, have a persona, have a fursuit. You can just wake up one day, simply say, I want to be a furry, and then you be a furry. That's really it. It is a self-applied label. So the furry fandom is an open and welcoming community. Anyone can be a part of it and join and say they're a furry. Why is it? Because furry is a hobby at the end of the day. Now, yes, it is a community, and some people have a lifestyle revolving around it. Yours truly. But it's a hobby at the end of the day. It doesn't require much to participate in because it's realistically just an interest in anthropomorphic animal characters. And that also in and of itself doesn't mean that anything is exclusively furry too. Anyone can say they are a furry or apply the label to themselves, no matter how invested or uninvested in the community they might be. You don't have to have a persona, a fursuit, go to a convention, know any other furries to say that you are one. So this whole trait about the furry community has good and bad to it. The good with it is that anyone can say they're a furry. It means that it's inclusive. If you want to, you can join the community and participate in the hobby as much as you would like. I would personally like to argue, as someone who's been in the furry fandom for over 5 years now, that the community, or at least the people in it, are genuinely good people with good intentions of enjoying their hobby, expressing themselves freely and creatively in a weird, fun, and safe manner. Now, some might immediately disagree with what I had to say. The big but. Oh, you say that furries are generally good people? Well, what about these people? And then insert whatever example of like convicted person who did big bad, who said they were a furry, this person who was identified as a furry by the news and did an awful thing that objectively is bad. And they're like, you say furries are good now, do you? Does that mean these people are good? And I have a couple of responses to that. The first one being, so you don't like waffles? You know that one tweet you see pop up from time and time again, how someone will say they like pancakes, and then you'll see replies of people being like, so you don't like waffles? And it's like, no, bitch, that's an entirely different tweet and sentence. What the fuck? But it's that assessment that some people make when you don't mention every other example under the sun to clarify that you like pancakes, but also like waffles, but also French toast, but also toaster strudels, but also popped. Like, you know, you can't reasonably say one thing when some people make that reasoning. And usually when that reasoning is made, it's not in a very critical thinking manner. Which leads me to my second point. Critical thinking skills are very important. I'd like to argue, at least in a case like that, you can say that furries are generally good people while also being critical of the few who are bad examples or bad actors or just bad people in general. That is what people in society do too. The first thing with critical thinking skills, when you think about this, is that it is a small fraction of people who are bad compared to those who are good, at least within the realm of furry. The second point is that a majority of furries and people would also agree that they do not support the behavior of the examples that anyone would give of those bad people. And the third part of this is that there is a standard to maintain, I feel like, to be accepted within the furry community. And keep in mind, the bar is not high die for it. Usually it's just be a decent person, you know, don't do bad stuff. Don't try to hurt people. You know, it's the bare minimum that I feel like a lot of society and people at large do outside of furries. So you got to keep in mind that some of these problems as well are also people problems, not just furry problems. So with that in mind, and I probably already spoiled it ahead of time, what is the bad to the double-edged sword of furry? Well, it's that anyone can be a furry. Anyone can apply the label of furry onto themselves, whether they're bad people with bad intentions, bad actors, or someone trying to bring down the reputation of furries by involving themselves in the community by being a bad person. Which again, that is, I feel like, more of a straw man argument. I haven't seen that necessarily happen, but it's not outside of the realm of possibility that someone could come in and be like, I'm taking one for the team for anti-furries, and then label their account as such, of all these abhorrent things, and then just say, oh hey, I'm a furry too, this is what the community is about. And usually these people are used as the scapegoats for the furries are bad argument, which now is a perfect time to bring up the example for this video, which is actually the inspiration for why I'm doing it in the first place. It's a little comic art piece done by my friend Shadowfox. I don't know if he still does art now, but he posted this comic a little bit ago, and it resonated very heavily with me and led to this whole idea of the double-edged sword of being a furry, at least in my book. Why do furries want litter boxes in our schools? Oh, furries don't actually want that. That's a myth created by the media. I feel like that was a passive-aggressive slap in the face depending on how you put the tone into it. I like it, Shreddy. I like it. That guy over there said they do. Yeah, he's not really with us. Which at this point led to this entire video that you see here. There might be those that give a bad rep for furries or might spread misinformation in the case of the example in the comic. What is the solution that some people go for? Oh, he's not really with us. We do not support them or what they have to say about the community. The furry community is about whatever else. It's through the lens of seeing really, really shitty people in the community where you're like, we don't claim him, but there's not much we can do about it because, you know, it's an open community. Because again, with the furry community being open, especially with it being predominantly online, if you have someone giving out misinformation about furries, whether they're a furry or not, what are you going to do about it besides try to correct it? Some people will just remain ignorant and try to spread misinformation for the sake of it. And that's sort of the point of the double-edged sword in this case with the bad thing is that anyone is welcome in the community, and there's no real way to filter out the bad actors, especially if they're just kind of coming in to make noise in the community and that's it. Whether it's intentional or not. There's no real way to kick people out of furry. That's the thing. I mean, yeah, unless it's like a convention per se. If someone's kicked out of a furry convention, that's different. To some extent, the only authoritative power within furry are like convention heads, con staff, you know, event organizers, because outside of the internet, the only actual aspect of furry that is outside of it is the practicing form, the IRL, through furry conventions, fur meets, and whatever other furry event. That's how you bring it to life outside of the internet. And on the internet, there's only so much you can do as well. The only thing that can be done about bad actors is trying to hold them accountable or call them out on their bad behavior or their bad actions. Make it clear that that behavior isn't supported and isn't really welcome in the community. Now you're probably about to say this is a dangerous narrative to take on. Some go the route of trying to shine light on what that person has done, the bad behaviors, trying to call out or I guess cancel that person, which I think is pretty good and all depending on obviously what it is. Some go the route of witch hunting or even cyberbullying, of trying to harass that person either out of the fandom or out of the internet. But what I've found in terms of the cyberbullying towards specific people, it very rarely gets results on the people you want and only really affects those you don't want it to affect or those who are caught in the crossfire of it. It's more of fighting off the bad people for the sake of the community at large, which obviously you don't want to be associated with bad, abhorrent people, but you got to keep in mind there's only so much you can do. You can disavow them and be very clear about that, but outside of that, you know, unless they've committed a crime, there's nothing more. But some people won't settle for that. Whether they'll continue forward with either harassing people, either by proxy of the individual, or they'll just come to the conclusion that furry is bad because this person is allowed to be a part of it. Which to some extent by nature, that is just how it is. Not just with furry, but with hobbies in general, especially those that might not have a governing power. Which I get to the extent some folks might get upset about that too, because when furry to some is criticized, whether justly or unjustly, whether there's a bad actor, someone bringing the reputation down, and furry is seen poorly because of it, some furries really take that to heart just because they value the hobby or community they're a part of. They care about it so heavily, more to like the lifestyle extent, that they'll do anything to make the reputation better and avoid any little bad thing. I get wanting that, but at the same time, it needs to be understood there's only so much you can do. So the best thing you can do is do what you can. Call out the bad behavior, call out the bad actors, try to disavow them from the community, and try to be the best person you can be. Put the good into the world that you want. However, with regards to the case of bad actors, instead of trying to focus more of the energy into the good, a lot of the energy is focused into the bad. But this leads to a very dangerous set of presumptions that can happen from this, which I feel like the root of it is the fear that someone may or may not be a bad actor, some bad person that's a bad rep for the community, for furry, that might secretly be a bad person, but you don't know that. How do you pick out the bad actors? Now, obviously, there are simple cases, like this person is a convicted, not great person. Easy, straightforward, easy to, pick them out. But not every case is as black or white as that. What about a case where some furry just doesn't like another furry and that's it? I've seen it happen time and time again where instead of just not liking someone, there has to be some narrative or some set of reasons to justify that. Like, it's not just, I don't like this person, it's, oh, I don't like this person, they this, and this, and then it sets this bad narrative. And sometimes it can very well lead into some hate campaigns towards people that might just simply not get along. I mean, even think about it this way. Some people might see me as a bad actor within the furry community. They might see me as a bad name or rep for the community for whatever reason under the sun, whether it's true or not. And sometimes these presumptions or accusations are brought down to hearsay. I've seen it happen time and time again on furry Twitter and furry social media. What if some furry is in a sub-hobby within furry, specifically of the kink variety, something that's more adult-themed, behind closed doors with other consenting adults, nothing really wrong with it, but someone doing their own thing that might not be palatable to others. This is how the furry wheel of drama has come to be, because there's some person who might not like another thing that someone else likes, and it ends up being a bigger problem or associating with some actual bad thing when that is not proven to be true. This is how we get the furry wheel of drama and people bickering back and forth all the time. This is how we get the drama topics of baby furs being problematic, of pup hoods being problematic, feral art, NSFW or kink in furry spaces. This is how we get a lot of these arguments. And it usually results in nothing, and then people making the assumption that, oh, furry has this problem, or oh, furry is bad in general because this didn't change, and there are people who enjoy it. So with the case here, the whole idea of a bad actor might be entirely subjective. Everyone might have their own definition of bad actor. That's why if I asked right now, what is the biggest problem that furry faces right now? I'd get a million different answers, some of which would probably be on that furry wheel of drama as we speak. This is how it results in a lot of the infighting. This idea that bad people can exist, so anything correlated to these bad people, even if multiple steps are taken past it without any sort of factual evidence behind it, some people just jump the gun and try to ditch them from the community for the sake of trying to keep it clean, trying to curate it. And to that I say, you have to think more objectively than just subjectively. If you've already called out the bad behavior and done everything you can to make that apparent, you've done what you can. The best thing I would ever recommend is not try to waste negative energy on the bad things, because then your frame of mind especially is going to be focused on, okay, I'm focusing on this and this and this bad thing within the community. Well, then everything's bad with furry, because your scope of it is just the negative stuff. Algorithms tend to amplify that, especially on social media. The best thing I will always recommend when it comes to stuff like that is try to focus on bringing up the good. Put your effort and energy towards the good that you want to see in the community. Contribute to it in what it really really means and what you see as the definition of it, of why you joined in the first place. I always try to use the example of what Wendigoon said in his horror movie Iceberg video, or I guess the disturbing movie Iceberg. At the end of it, he said, with regards to the whole focus being on this horrible, abhorrent side of like humanity and disturbing videos and disturbing media, that within the scope of it all, it's very easy to see that the world is a bad place, there are bad people out there, and if you're constantly being exposed to that, then yeah, you're gonna think that it is a bad place. But that's within the scope of it, and what he said in the video was that you gotta go looking for that bad stuff. I feel like that's kind of hit or miss depending on where you are within furry, but I'd like to rephrase that to more of what we said in the beginning. The furry fandom is a lot more than the bad people that are shunned or outed from it. We all, I feel like, know that, but we need to remind ourselves of it. It's very easy to get caught up in the bad stuff, the bad people that might be a part of the community. You just gotta focus on the good, the people that are really trying to bring it up, that are trying to make this community better and welcoming to everyone. And it's very easy to be consumed by negativity. If there's one person who might say something bad out of 100 good people, it's very easy to gravitate towards the negative. I feel like it's natural in humans to gravitate towards the one thing wrong to make it perfect or right. Within the scope of furry, it's never going to be perfect, and everyone's going to have a different idea of what that imperfection is. What the big problem is within furry, that's what makes it all subjective for everyone's experience. Some people could think some big thing is problematic within furry when that's not even remotely a problem. So at the end of the day, when it comes down to this, whenever you see bad actors, you just do what you can in terms of making that aware or apparent that that person is a bad actor. Obviously do the research first, you know, because there have very much been some cases where some people will just hop on a bandwagon off of a dude trust me moment, when you gotta have receipts and all that to justify some of the claims, but some people will just kind of go with it for the sake of, I don't like this person, so this person also doesn't like this person, let's ruin this person, which is a whole other argument and video entirely that I want to go through. But with regards to the double-edged sword of being a furry, things will naturally have good and bad to it. It will never be perfect, but the one thing you can do is do the best you can to make it good or make it better. That is really it. And try to celebrate the good that the community brings. That's why I say, despite all this talk about, you know, bad stuff in the community, problems within the community, I still think overall it is a good place. It is a good, welcome place with genuinely good people in it. I mean, you could also just throw away everything that I have to say with this video. This is more for like the crowd that, you know, very much worries about the reputation of furries and, you know, wanting to actively make it a better place by disavowing the bad and dissociating the bad. More like the furry activist, I guess, side of things. Just remember to enjoy the community that you're a part of. I wanted to talk about this double-edged sword of being a furry because, quite frankly, it interests me a lot. I probably want to refine this definition and topic itself in the future. So if you have any comments or concerns or critiques on this, I'd greatly appreciate it in the comments. Respectfully, of course. I'm sure there are things in this video that some of you did not agree with, so if you disagree, please let me know respectfully. I really do try to read the comments that I can. I try to take criticism. You know, if you want to DM me separately about it, that's fine too. Email me, whatever it might be. But on that note, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to let me know in the comments. If you haven't seen the other video about the click problem within furry, which there isn't one, feel free to check that out. The link will be in the description below. If you have any other topics sort of similar to this, or I guess debates, discussions that you want me to talk about, be sure to let me know in the comments. I love all the suggestions you guys have for me. You've all been so wonderful with the reception on a lot of the videos that I've done with topics like this. But either way, that's about going to do it for me. Have a wonderful night, take care, life stay jacket, treat people like people, and that's about it. Take care, guys.